Alright, so you're going to want to make sure that when you cut the sprue off, I always cut it. I don't cut it at one shot, because that makes a flat tip on there and it's not as attractive. I mean, you want that ball to be a ball, so I just cut it, take a few cuts at an angle, drop that in my cup. If you're going to use a file, make sure you move slowly. You don't want a lot of lead particulates getting kicked around. Never use a belt sand or anything like that, because it can be pretty dangerous. You don't want to be ingesting little particles of lead. So just try to round that jig head off a little bit. And you can tap on them too. You can just kind of flatten them around and, you know, get the head of it a little bit more round instead of having that flat nose. Sorry about the dirty fingernails and stuff. I had liquid smoke at work get all over my hands. So, alright, let's do like a disco gold. I'll just show real quick. These Protech paints, they have to be cured in the oven. I'm not heating this up right now. I'm not going to cure these. Most of them say right on there how long. So preheat to 350 degrees and then 20 minutes for this color. And then if you're using the weed guards in, they're saying to cure it at this one says 270 degrees for 25 minutes. I don't like doing it with the weed guards in because they tend to not take the heat and they get all frayed out and don't look very good. They can get frayed out too depending on how you put them in. If you're not real careful when you glue them in, they can get frayed out. So here I'm just fluffing this stuff up. The disco colors actually work better, or work best, without a fluid bed. So I'm going to take a piece of this 3/32 heat shrink tubing. You can also use these high temp caps. I found, you know, these work good, but if you put too much heat into the hook, they actually kind of fall off. So I'm kind of switching over to more of the heat shrink tubing, even though it's more wasteful because you cut these into small pieces with the scissors, and then you can only really use them one time. So I'm going to just slip this over the eye of the hook, and then I'm going to try to leave a little bit of the hook shank exposed at the top, so when it melts down and shrinks up, it looks like this. So there's still a little hook shank there. If I put it all the way tight to the jig, it'll actually make a spot where the paint can't get on the jig head and not cover the lid all the way. So I have this fluffed up. Got that on. Now there's two different sizes, remember. It's got the 5/64 or the 16th, so make sure you're using the right size pull pin that we made. So now I'm going to heat this up. So get it nice and warm. I don't have my exhaust fan on. Typically I would be running it, but I wanted you guys to be able to hear me. So that wasn't quite enough heat. You can see it's still, there's not much glitter in it. It didn't get real glossy. So I'm just going to slide this out and then hit it with a little bit more heat from further away. So that lead cooled down too fast for me when I was sliding this pin in there. So I'm going to try to do it a little bit faster. You can see it's still pretty light. So I'm I'm struggling. This is my first one today, so I want to get it, make sure that it gets good cover. And right now, I mean, it doesn't look terrible. And I don't want a real heavy coat on her either. So there we go. That looks much better. It got nice and glossy. You know. So we're gonna leave the pole pin and the heat shrink tubing on there for a little while. If you try to pull that pole pin out or the heat shrink tubing before that paint cools down and the lead cools down, you can damage the paint. Or pull, you know, you pull the pole pin out, you can pull the paint around the pole pin off of the jig, and then it leaves exposed lead around the hole. So we don't want that. Also, like I mentioned in the pouring video, make sure that the hole goes all the way down to the hook eye, or down to the, down to that corner of the hook. You want it to make sure that that fiber weed guard's gonna be in there plenty far. So I'm gonna just do another one quick with this. Grab another one of my be careful not to get that in the flame or in that heat. You can be pretty far away from this guy and still burn yourself pretty bad. So always be cautious around that flame. So make sure we got the right size pole pin. It's kind of confusing sometimes when you're running multiple sizes. You could fluff the paint up again. Slip that in there. Pretty good. So we're going to set this over here. Now this is cooled down enough. We can pull this out of there. And then pull this off of there. You can leave other comments if you have any questions or anything. So I pulled both of them off. No paint in the hook eye. No paint in the hole. It's all good there. So then I would put it in my jig rack. Careful around the flame, like I said. Don't want to burn your arm. But I put that in my jig rack, heat that up to 350 degrees, and then put this whole rack in there for 20 minutes to cure these jigs. And then once it's cured, it shouldn't have any drips or anything on it, unless the paint was applied too thick. But I know from experience that using that jig rack and holding it up like that, even if it does get a little bit too much paint on it, a lot of times it'll end up down here on the hook shank, and it won't be quite as bad as hanging it like this. But I've gotten pretty good about not putting too much paint on and creating drips. None of the jigs that I made in the previous video had any drips on them. So, and then I would use this Loctite Ultra Gel, put a small dab in there. I'm just going to do this one without curing it because I want to just shorten the video up. So you don't want to use too much glue, just a little dab. And I got my fiber weed guard here. So this end is glued or melted together. You just want to slip that in there and give it a little bit of a twist, making sure that your fiber weed guard is nice and straight and it's not all frayed out and it doesn't look terrible. Like I said though, this jig was not cured. I will use this in my own personal use and not worry about if it gets chipped right away. With the Stardust stuff, it doesn't need to go in the oven. You just, I'll do one real quick with this white camo Stardust. And I've also made a video with these different containers these containers are nice as long as you do not spill them, don't flip them over, because this doesn't create a nice tight seal. If I tip it up, it will spill out. So they do stack really nice. I like using them for this product because they stack nice, and I'm usually pretty careful with it not to spill and make a mess. So again, this is the white camo Stardust. This stuff goes through a chemical treatment, each color, so that the colors don't bend or blend together. So like this one, it's that white camo. This was not cured in the oven. You can cure them, or you can put them in the oven to get them to their looking like their finished coat, but you don't need to. You can just grab pull pin, grab just the same process I'm doing with that as this. So I'm going to put a little bit of that heat shrink tube on my hook eye. Now I'm going to heat it up. Heat it up nice and good. Make sure everything's coated, so it kind of looks all kind of textured. I'm going to set that one there. I'll do another one to give that one time to cool and to just keep things rolling. So, and I like to, sometimes you have to hold the heat shrink tubing because the hook eye is a little bit smaller. So you want to just hold it with your needle nose pliers, and then just put it down by the heat until it starts to shrink down a little bit. Remember to leave a little bit of the hook shank below the hook eye exposed so that you're able to get paint all around it. This one actually has a little bit of extra lead right here. Oops, sorry, that was probably really loud. It had a little bit of lead on the bait keeper, so just cut that off of there. So again, I'll heat this up. Slide my pin in there and coat it. Alright. Alright, so there's a little bit of paint back here on the hook shank, so I'm just going to wipe that off. I can pull my pin out now without damaging the paint, and then pull my cap that I made off over the hook eye. Heat this up, and once again, careful around the flame. You can burn your fingertips. You can also use pliers or vice grips to hold the hook from a safe distance. Keep your hands back. I'm not sure, my camera just shut off, quit recording and then started recording, but I don't know how much of it I missed. But there you go, I heated it up, got it nice and smooth. And now this one, once I glue this in and that glue is cured, this one is ready to fish and the paint won't chip off or anything. This stuff is, the Stardust is extremely durable. So I'll put a small dab in here yet. The smaller the amount of glue, the better. There you have it. I'll shut this off. But there you have it. That one is ready to fish once that glue is cured. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already, give the video a like and please subscribe for more videos. And plan on doing more videos with giveaways in the future.